Good evening, and thank you so much for tuning in to ASU Care's live storytelling series, Gather. Be advised that the stories tonight may contain adult subject matter and language that may be considered inappropriate for some viewers and controversial for others. The views expressed in the powerful stories you're about to experience are not necessarily the views of ASU Cultural Affairs, ASU Care, or their employees. And with that, we want to give a warm welcome to tonight's guest host, Sarah Tan.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this 10th edition of ASU Cares Gather. I'm Sarah Tan, and I was a storyteller on this series last month. It's an honor to be back. I am a Singaporean artist educator in theater, currently residing in Phoenix, Arizona. A bulk of my work delves into trauma-informed creative practices, which I get to share with my community through my work with Gray Box Collective as an education coordinator and digital communications specialist. ASU Care started the Gather series, motivated by the sharing of stories of our friends and neighbors in the Valley and beyond. Gather storytellers of all levels, from newbies to experienced artists, have graced this virtual stage with their stories. We have an incredible set of all Arizona storytellers this month, and as always, ASU Care is so proud to be providing a space where their stories can be told. Tonight's theme is Unmasked, and I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's stories prompted by a theme that may mean a lot of different and similar things to people right now. Our storytellers will share their stories, and then we'll have a Q&A that allows us to learn more about everyone. Our main ask tonight is that we keep the chat positive. We hope you're inspired to encourage our storytellers and share some hearts, applause, and more in the chat. We'll be taking your questions, so be sure to drop those in the questions in the comments. We always love to hear from you. We are also sad to report that Amanda Jeremiah won't be able to join us tonight. We hope you get well soon, Amanda. But she will be telling her story in next month's edition of Gather. And on that note, our first storyteller tonight is Hida Flores de Hoyo Segrado. Hida is a trans, non-binary, queer drag artist and activist. They are the Arizona Queer Politics Coordinator for Trans Queer Pueblo, where they organize trans, migrants, and undocumented sex workers, helping them to know their rights. Their goals are to build a powerful community in Phoenix and help move toward creating a city that is safer for BIPOC LGBTQ+ people. Take it away, Hida.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. So the story I'm going to share is one about shame. And so I'm Catholic, and to be Catholic is to be ashamed, but never for the reasons we should be ashamed. It's not for anti-Semitism or genocide of indigenous peoples, not for continuing to protect men who harm children. No, we should feel ashamed because of things we can't control. Our birth, our creation, our love. Because if you didn't know, our original sin isn't simply sex, it's knowing ourselves. And shame is the best way to keep people from knowing themselves. And it takes so many shapes. And so when I was little, I didn't fear hell for being queer or trans or femme. I grew up around a grandfather and grandmothers and tias who used ancestral medicines and practices. I was also allowed to see spirits of our departed family members and used to experience dreams of the future. And these are things that Catholicism doesn't understand. And whatever it doesn't understand, it calls witchcraft. And so ancestral medicines, that's witchcraft. Science, that's witchcraft. Lesbianism, that's witchcraft. But these things are actually gifts, and they came from my ancestors, and they are manifestations of their love. And so if they love me, and they were a part of this divine, then God loved me. However, shame was able to take many shapes. When I was little, it took the form of my spinning. As I danced in front of my grandma's front lawn with a flower in my hair, my back came home and it confused him, made him mad. He didn't want a child, he wanted a son, and all he got was a sissy. When he hit me, he told me it was for my own good. I was too little to remember what I thought, but I remembered I had to take flowers out of my hair before I got home, most times, because I knew I couldn't be anything besides a boy at home, and that I brought out the violence in others. And so then during my teenage years, I found a human who really cared about me. He was funny, he was geeky, he was creative. But then I felt shame take the form of his lips. I knew I wasn't a boy, but I still didn't understand what trans was, or that I could be non-binary. Mostly because everything I had learned or heard about transness came from cis people, and you all make that stuff sound fake. And he was straight, but he was always kind. And I loved him. I really, really loved him. And between wanting to be loved by him and this being the first real friendship I had, I wasn't good at understanding mine or his boundaries. One day I called him crying. It was a really bad mental health day, and I was escalating the conversation. And so I say, I don't think I can be loved. And he responded, what if you're not? And it wasn't really a question. It's kind of a statement. And I felt so much shame. How could I think that this beautiful guy could ever want me? And so I became very emotionally abusive towards myself. I would call myself disgusting, pathetic, stupid, useless. And even though I was learning I could not be a boy, I was also learning that meant I couldn't really be loved. And after all this, I started learning more about gender, about transness, and what a non-binary was. And because the girls who I was following and learning from did full service sex work to survive, I learned about sex work decriminalization. And so I, of course, started to believe that sex workers deserve rights and safety. However, if you had asked me 3 years ago if that included myself, I would have told you no, because then the shame took the shape of my room. And I didn't have to fear not having a home. And so what else could I possibly want? What else could I possibly need? And if I didn't need to do sex work, then it wasn't work. And if it's not work, then I really did not deserve dignity and safety. And so at that point, I knew I was non-binary, but I was still suppressing my emotions. I was losing teeth. My dreams got really hazy, and I struggled to allow myself to transition. Even though I knew who I was still hiding so much about myself behind shame and this deep-rooted self-hatred. And it was towards the end of 2017 that I joined this community organization called Trans Queer Pueblo. It wasn't so much that they taught me new and radical ways of honoring myself and my roots, so much as being in that place, in that community, being surrounded by LGBTQ migrant and Latinx folks. It gave me a space to let go of that shame. And in their company, I was able to see how much of this shame required me to hold on to it, to say it is mine, to believe I was my shame. And though it sounds cliche, I needed to learn to forgive the people who loved me, who just didn't know better, because they were also never given an opportunity to learn anything besides shame. And I needed to learn to forget. Not so much the violent experiences, but rather the violent lessons that I didn't bring out the violence in others, that I was worthy of love, and that I deserved safety and rights. And this isn't a lesson I necessarily have a lot of time or experience with. Some days I feel so much shame, it's hard to sit with it and believe that I deserve anything good. But I'm in good company now, and my dreams have gotten a whole lot more clear. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hida, for your openness and your vulnerability in that story. Sharing your story holds so much power and will help others struggling with similar issues. So on that note, I was wondering, what quick piece of advice do you have for others that may be discovering that they identify as non-binary or trans?
Right. And so I think one of the conversations that gets brought up, especially within BIPOC trans communities, is that we've actually had different genders outside of man and woman for a long time. And within all of our cultures, what defines a man and a woman is not the same. It's not stagnant. And so in order to honor our transness and our non-binariness, we need to also understand that it doesn't all look the same. What I want as a non-binary person is probably not the same thing that another non-binary person wants. And so by honoring that, we honor our culture, we honor our roots.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And next up, we have Nate Romero. Nate Romero tells us he is a pan-sadist who identifies as a chaos deity. He's from a small mining town in Arizona, used to weigh 30 stone, and has held a number of jobs: dog groomer, escort bodyguard, Christmas tree salesman, and waiter. He currently sells medical marijuana and enjoys playing PlayStation and obsessing over English bulldogs. A seasoned storyteller, Romero has been featured in USA Today's Arizona Storytellers Project, the Storyline Slam and Risk Storytelling Podcast, and more. We give you Nate Romero.
So I started selling weed right before everything went to hell. And about last year, about February, I got a call to go in and apply for a medical marijuana dispensary, and I got the job. I really, really wanted this job because I had been any number of odd jobs, and I was over it. Most especially the food industry. You would think that a deaf person couldn't get by in the food industry, but you'd be surprised because restaurants are noisy places, so it's natural for a waiter to ask again and again. And plus, I had my secret weapon, which was lip reading. You know, it didn't really matter how noisy a place was because it was all just noise. As long as I could see your lips, I could figure out where you were going to get, because it's all about context, isn't it? So I was ready for this job. I was ready to have a chill little job, selling weed, being cool, getting into my 40s, and relaxing. Especially since my longest stint had been as a waiter at Gay Denny's on 7th Street, Camelback in Phoenix. And don't come to me and say Jenny's. I know. But yeah, I spent 10 years graveyard there, serving the most evil queens in all of Christendom. So You could say that I had a thick skin. I had to. Those queens would eat you alive if you didn't. And so I would say that after having been 420 pounds, growing up Mexican in one of the most racist states in the United States, and you can't tell me different, and being deaf, I've been called any number of things, and there was nothing you could really call me that I hadn't been called before. You can't play the oppression Olympics with me. I'm gonna win every time. So I got this job, and then COVID hit. So the glass shields went up. Strike number one. My hearing aids were dying because they're old. Strike number two. And then the mask went on. And that was strike three. My final weapon, my way of coping was gone. And just because I heard you doesn't mean I understood you. You can hear French, doesn't mean you understood it. It's the same exact thing. So day by day, customer by customer, small mistake by small frustration, by having to grab somebody to come and take care of this customer because I just could not hear their low voice. All of that started shinking at my armor. Once or twice, I could have handled it. But it was every day, several times a day. But I just compartmentalized it. You just take all that bad feeling and put it away. And in the words of Tina Fey, it's okay because I know the words of it. I know the words to it. I know what I'm doing. It's healthy. It's okay. Yeah. So one day, my husband and I were at another dispensary. And I saw a sign for a budtender station there. And it said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm deaf, or I'm hard of hearing, and I wear hearing aids. Please be patient with me." And I had two very simultaneous and very strong reactions. The first one was, "Oh, that is cool. I'm really glad that he got help, and I'm glad that they're working with him, and I'm glad that he was able to ask for that." My other reaction, very at the same time, was a complete feeling of revulsion at the idea of asking for that for myself. Because it was drilled into me, never give them the satisfaction of seeing you cry. You know, you can do this. You know, you don't need special treatment. And for the most part, I didn't. I made it all the way to 41 without too much accommodation. But I just couldn't shake that sign. So on the way home, I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? I just need to recharge. I just need to take a few extra days off, patch my armor up. Because you know what? Sometimes you just want it to hurt. You just need it to hurt just so it fucking leaves you. You know? And you use that to patch your armor up. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. But I just wanted it to ache for a bit. And that way I could just get it out. So I went to the office of my work and I looked at the calendar. And I was trying to figure out a day to take off. And my boss looked at me and stopped and said, "What's wrong?" And I looked at another coworker of mine that was in the office and said, "Can you get out?" And he got out and I sat down and I said, "Kay, I love this job. I really, really do. But this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life." And then I just broke down and just started crying really hard. And I said, "I don't know how much more of this I can do. Because every day it is something. Somebody getting mad that I can't hear them, some order I misheard, and I'm struggling and I don't know what to do. And I could see she was a little confused, and I said, it's too difficult to hear. And the problem, Caitlin, is that everybody thinks that being deaf and hearing things is a matter of positivity and effort, and it's not. Even your manager, when I ask them for a note, you know what I hear? Pay more attention to your surroundings. Like I'm fucking not. I know what you mean when you say that. You're forgetting that deaf people are the masters of context and body language. So when I'm walking away and you share that look with your friend because I misheard something and it was kind of comical, I saw that. When you stifle taking a deep breath because I didn't hear something you said, I see that. When you roll your eyes or you ask for a manager because I can't fucking hear you, I can't argue with it. And I don't know what I'm gonna do. So she let me finish crying. And then she said, you need to take a minute. I said, yes. So I went and to the bathroom, washed my face and everything. I came back and she said, okay, we're gonna move you to online. So you're just filling orders. And we're gonna get you away from the customers for a bit. And, you know, you're gonna take an extra day off. And then we'll come back and we'll start you in your new position and we'll start fresh. And for a little bit, I waited for the other shoe to drop. I'm not used to, well, I have to do something for this, right? Like, you mean you're just gonna help me? Okay. So I went home, feeling safer and stabler than I had in ever. Now, am I still stubborn and prideful? Yes. Am I going to run out and ask for help every time? No. But am I going to slap away a hand that reaches out for me? Maybe, maybe not. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nate. Thank you for that really timely and special story. I was particularly struck by that moment of mixed emotions that you talked about when you saw another hearing impaired employee at the dispensary with their sign asking for patience. And it has me thinking about whether you have any advice for other hearing impaired people who are tuning in tonight.
I'm so sorry. One more time. I missed that question.
Oh, no worries. Just whether you have any advice for other hearing impaired people who are tuning in tonight.
Yes. Deaf anxiety is a real thing. The compulsive need to double check and triple check and ask people to repeat themselves, and that beat that you have to take to figure out what somebody said, it is a real thing. It's called auditory processing disorder. And it costs nobody anything to repeat themselves to you. Don't be afraid to ask for it. Advocate for yourself, really.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you both so much for these stories. You were both so vulnerable and so honest, and I'm so honored to be able to hold space to allow you all to share these stories. So right now we're going to move into the Q&A part of the show, and I'll start with a few questions for everyone. And we hope that if anyone watching has a question for a specific storyteller or for everyone tonight, you'll ask those questions in the chat. All right, so my first question for either of you or both of you, if you'd like to answer, is when you were told that the theme for this month's Gather event was Unmasked, did you immediately know what your story was going to be?
I did. I'm sorry. I'll take this one. Yeah, I actually immediately did because this is such a recent thing for me. And when they said unmasked, I mean, this is literally about masks. So it was just a no-brainer for me. And there was a little period there where it looked like the show was booked up and I wasn't able to get into it. And I was like, oh, that's frustrating, but here we are.
For me, it definitely took a little more time to figure it out. Like I was trying to think of like, oh, what's a really dramatic story that I have? I'm a drag queen, so I have to have a dramatic story, something that's like funny and, you know, like dramatic and like accusatory. But like I could not think of anything. But then I like turned it inwards and I was like, right, I can talk about that.
Awesome. Yeah, when I think of Unmasked, it's just so many layers. And now I think about people not wearing masks and it like drives me nuts. But I'm glad there were like different stories that came out of that theme. Okay, so this is kind of building off. But what kind of obstacles or surprises did you face in constructing your story? And you know, that can be anything since, you know, Nate, you kind of knew what you were gonna talk about, and Hida not, like, you know, you had like a little journey before you got there.
I mean, for me, I think one of the obstacles was kind of just not feeling emotional about it. Like allowing the story to be a story rather than like repeating the lesson in my head, if that makes any sense. Some of the like coming back through those experiences, there was a lot, there was a huge stack of like shameful memories that I had. And like knowing like which ones were not going to trigger me was kind of an obstacle. But yeah.
Awesome. Nate, did you have a response for that question about surprising emotions or obstacles?
I think my most surprising obstacle was, well, not obstacle, emotion actually was not not pity. It's not that feeling. It's just feeling bad for my past self, for seeing how hard I was on myself, and just wishing I had gone easy on myself and not beat myself up so much. And you know, honestly, it's a common thing that keeps recurring in my life. As you know, I'm about to be 42 in March. Um, it's just something that keeps coming up that I'm just like, I wish I just hadn't been so fucking hard on myself. You know, the world is hard enough on us. We don't need to do it to ourselves. I mean, hold yourself accountable, but you know.
No, that is so true. And I'm glad you shared that. All right, we have a couple of questions from the audience. The first one is from Colleen Jennings Rogensack. And the question is, what do you hope for after COVID? What do you hope for after COVID-19 when we are all unmasked? That's your first question.
So for me, I don't know if I'm gonna stay unmasked or go unmasked. I plan on buying many kinds of masks and going through public life wearing a mask. I don't know. I like masks now. I like masks.
Can you repeat the question for me one more time?
Yeah. What do you hope for after COVID-19 when we are all unmasked?
Oh God, I miss dancing. I miss going dancing, making out with strangers, all that shit. All that hood rat shit. I really, really do. You know, I miss hugging my friends. I miss hugging my friends, sharing a blunt with them. You know, going and sitting with a friend at all night at Denny's and just shooting the shit and looking up at the sun rising. Oh shit, gotta get home. I miss all of that.
I feel you there. It's funny because I completely agree. And at the same time, I love that I can like talk to myself outdoors and no one knows because I'm wearing a mask. All right. Our next question is from May Ann. And the question is, how can we learn more about the storytellers, so you all, and where they are performing or have performed? So a little self-promotion moment.
Um, well, honestly, I really haven't kept track of where I've performed because to me, it was such a grassroots movement here in Phoenix, headed by Dan Hall here, my mentor and friend. Um, so hmm, I'm losing the track of it. Uh, I mean, the best you can do is probably like try to get their Insta stories or whatever social media. You know, a lot of us really aren't that private because we're sharing such personal stories. You know, a lot of us subscribe to that whole if you're going to have skeletons in your closet, you might as well make them dance. So a lot of our social media stuff is pretty revelatory. So just seek us out. You hear the name, look it up. Um, some people really, really push their story careers. I do it when somebody asks me to. So, you know, you just kind of follow their Insta, and I guess they'll just notify you when they do something. I really, really recommend uh, the Risk podcast for a national look at storytellers because they do go national, and I think they get a really, really good cross section of America. Um, but yeah, go to just see as many stories as you can, and keep an eye out for stories where you don't expect.
As for me, as Nathan mentioned, you can follow me on my Instagram or my Facebook. On Facebook, I'm Hida Flores Andrade Peña. If I don't add you, don't take offense. I take at least 2 years to add anyone. And more than often, you can find me on my Instagram, which is pute-hira. I'm pretty sure I can put it somewhere. And yeah, for where I perform, so mostly I perform with Transcorp Pueblo. We have Queer Artivismos and Drag for Our Dreams, which are like some of those happen like 5 times every year. So that's where I get my practice in. And before the pandemic, the place that I did most was Boycott with Georgina the Doll. And yeah, hopefully once this pandemic's over, that's gonna happen. I also love carambas. I'm hoping that like once this pandemic is over, I can go and do shows for the girls at carambas because I love carambas.
That's awesome. Oh, Nate, go for it.
Girl, if we tagging ourselves, find me at Charmbound Bear on Insta.
Awesome. All right, we have another question. What are some storytellers, books, films, or shows that have gotten all three of us, question for all three of us, through the pandemic? They're looking for recommendations.
Okay, so I just finished reading this really nice book. It's like kind of a fable about queer movement, right? And how it confronts white supremacy and patriarchy. It's called The Faggots and Their Friends Between Revolutions. That's literally its name. And it takes like this child fairy tale sort of approach to who are the elders in the story, who are the magicians in the story, who are the heroes and the transformers, and what does the men expect? I love it. The only other book that I've also read is, oh, what is it? It is, I feel like I have it over here, but I can't find it. It's something like Trans Girls Notes from, oh, I can't find it. It's something like Trans Girls Notes from the End of the World. I can't remember it. I will try to find the book and like hold it up.
One podcast I found really, really interesting is This Is Where We Begin by Esther Perel, and it's a deep dive in therapy. But it is one of the most true and human things I've heard in a very long time. And Esther Perel is just brilliant as a therapist. Of course, there's always going to be savage love, but as far as like stories, I've been playing a lot of video games and tuning out during the pandemic. So I guess life has just been on pause, and the only story I really know is short sitcoms right now, because that's all my repression really allows me to watch, if you know what I mean. Just Golden Girls on repeat. But if you're looking for something interesting, go for that. And if you want scary stories, look for the Halloween episodes of the Risk podcast, because those are some fucking scary stories. So, yeah.
Awesome. And for me, I would say I've been watching a lot of like animation. Part of me is like my work is like I work with youth. So I like watching those kinds of shows, but also it just feels like way less stressful than everything else that's going on in the world. But Disenchantment is an adult animation on Netflix that like I really like. It's super funny. All right, we got a couple more questions. So one question is, what do you think streaming audiences get out of watching or experiencing the storytelling? And what do you hope they experience?
I'll be honest, this format is a little bit different for me, and because I very much thrive on an audience, and I very much thrive on a shared experience. So what I'm hoping is that some sort of digital format for storytelling comes along, where basically you can see an audience. I don't know how that would work, but I think what people get out of digital storytelling, however, though, is just so much access to people that they just never would have run across before. I mean, I'm sure that there are some new eyes on my face tonight, and it's the same for you, Shana, and it's the same for you. You know, a lot of it, I think the benefit of storytelling a lot is just knowing that you're not alone in an experience. Therapy can help, sex, drugs, all of it can, bandage it, but sometimes a peace only comes from knowing that you're not alone in a situation, that you're not crazy about how you feel about something, and you're not being sensitive for how much something hurt, you know, and that you're not weird for thinking that this was a big deal. There's a thing of shared experience and comfort where we know that somebody else has gone through it. So I think that's what people get is a sense of not so much connectivity, but a shared experience, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. Hida, do you have a response for that question? I can repeat it also if you would like.
Yes. No, I got a response for it. But firstly, I want to correct myself. So the book I was thinking about is called I Hope We Choose Love, A Trans Girl's Notes from the End of the World. Literally, I read that and my heart melted and it bloomed a little bit. So I would definitely say, like, if you identify as trans or questioning or want to help some of your friends through that, read that book. It's written by an amazing, I want to say, it's written by an amazing trans woman. Her name is Kai Cheng Tom. And so my response for the question that you just said, I definitely agree with Nathan around access. I think that a lot, the internet has this amazing power of connecting us. And one of the things that I've done with drag shows, I think that has been fun for me, I think, is just like being able to put on plays or put on these productions that are kind of like budget Broadway. They feel so tacky. They feel so corny, and they're fun. They're so fun, and people can do this. I think that there are people who I see on Facebook or on Instagram, TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but I love how much production TikTok allows with literally just like a minute video. And I think that's so great. And that's what these are tools that we can use to really just like tell very different stories. Yeah, that's what I love.
I love it. I only know TikTok from a 7-year-old one time, so I don't actually know how to do anything on it. Our next question is from Michael. And the question is, what are your mind and soul escapes? What recharges and refreshes you, especially now in this pandemic?
Well, I am about to get the second dose of the vaccine. And what charges me, refreshes me is that knowing I'm going to be able to hug so many of my friends so soon. And we're going to dance again. And we're going to buck and twirl. And I'm just really finding out that I'm going to be 42 in March, but things are just getting started right now. So yeah, that's what recharges me.
For me, something that recharges me, video games. I love playing video games for story. I don't have enough time to really go into, 100% complete video games anymore. But I love just taking time to be able to like really care about these characters and not really like have to pay attention to like what's going on in the news. Did you do the laundry? Did you answer that email? It's like that's away now. I'm in this world. We are fighting monsters. I am a ruler, or I am a sorcerer. I am powerful, and I think that's really great for me in terms of like really recharging a social battery. Because I don't really believe in like the extrovert, introvert, ambivert sort of thing. I don't know, because like I sometimes it's really draining to be in like so many meetings all the time. And then sometimes it's like, oh, I really love this meeting. I was filled up by it. But even then, like, just I need to be able to like disconnect from just thinking about like all these things that I have to do and just like enjoy.
I love that. It's like the little things. And so this relates to the next question from Colleen, who asks, have you started any pandemic hobbies like sourdough bread making or new exercises or anything else?
The only thing I've really started is getting ready to grow my own weed. That's it. Like, I don't know if you want to call that a hobby or something, but it's progress is what it is. And economic too.
For me, it is hiking. I am not necessarily an outdoorsy person. I love nature from a distance. We are, related, but I don't want to go to her house. And so, but I have really enjoyed these experiences that I've had of being able to go to this hiking trail. I used to live off of 19th Avenue in Peoria. So there's a Butte there, Shaw Butte, and North Mountain. And those are typically the two places where I hike. And yeah, I haven't done it lately, but that's health reasons.
Awesome. Alrighty. This will be our last question for tonight. So for both of you, what motivated you to tell your story?
One more time.
What motivated you to tell your story?
Honestly, the difference in my life, in my soul, ever since they switched me jobs, is so massive that if there's a chance that I get anybody out there to ask for help if they need it, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth any kind of embarrassment I feel for anything about, any kind of like residual shame I feel about being deaf. It's completely worth it. Any shame I feel about telling a story is always worth it if I get one person who tells me, hey, that really helped me out. Just a really quick aside, there was, when I did the USA Today show, I told a story about older gay mentors and stuff. And after the show, a very young lesbian came up to me, and she came up, and I'm used to greeting people, but she just stood there and looked at me and was crying. And I just didn't know what to do but hug her. And it was a very personal story for me to tell at the time. But I'm glad I did, because I know that I don't know what she saw, but she saw something. And that's all you can do, is just put it out there. And if somebody can drink from it or eat from it, then, if you can help heal in some way, it costs me nothing to put it out there. Why not?
And I think for me, what motivated me to share this story, aside from just like overall shame, I think is being able to like be reflective. I think that's been one of the things that I've been really trying to implement in my life, is be reflective. To understand, hey, someone said something that I don't like. Why did I not like it? And what is it in my head that's telling me that oh, what they're saying is about me. Oh, what they're saying means that I'm a bad person or whatever. And it doesn't. And it has to deal with that, being able to take a step back and say, like, would you judge someone else for these things? And I had to admit to myself, yeah, I kind of do. And I don't want to. I want to be able to be kind and loving and not hold grudges against people or hold them to expectations that are not realistic, and let them be who they are. And so in order to do that, I have to be reflective. I have to think, what are the things that I'm not honoring in myself? Because that's I can't remember what it is. It came from this Michael Jackson song. Oh, I can't remember. It's be the change you want to see, start with you, or something like that. I have no idea. But it came from that. It came from that experience of just seeing yourself, seeing everything that's wrong with you, and understanding that it doesn't mean that you're a bad person.
Awesome. Yep. Nate, did you know the song? I saw you unmute for a moment.
I think the quote is, "Be the change you wish to see in the world."
Now we got it. Awesome. All right. Thank you both so much. And thank you to our audience for tuning in and making this such a beautiful 10th edition of Gather. Thank you specifically to Hida, Flores, Hoyo, Sagrado, and Nate Romero, and for everyone who asked a question or just held space for these stories. So a few announcements before we close off. ASU Cares' next live stream will be the return of the Beams live music series on Thursday, February 11th at 7 p.m. Phoenix indie folk duo Cass and Crossland will be taking over the stream with their awesome male-female harmonies and original songs. Our next monthly Gather event of 2021 will be Wednesday, February 24th at 6:30 p.m. The theme is The Secret's Out. Watch all of these live stream events just as you're watching now on ASU Cares, YouTube, Facebook Live, or Twitch. We recommend that you subscribe to ASU Care's YouTube channel so that you never miss a show. ASU Care has been presenting free live stream programming since April and creating paid performance opportunities for Arizona artists during a very challenging time for the arts and music industries. If you are able to contribute even a small amount to ASU Care, you'll be helping a self-sustaining historic venue survive, pay artists, create beautiful live streaming arts events, and bounce back big once we can gather for events again. Visit asukare.com and click the gold Give Now button to donate today.